Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. And today we are tackling something, uh, something really fascinating. I think a topic we all could use a little bit more insight on.
Right.
It's the whole realm of communication,
Mm-hmm.
like how we connect with each other,
Yeah.
authentically and really leave people with a positive, lasting impression.
Exactly.
And for this, we have gone deep.
Right.
I mean, really, really deep into a whole bunch of different sources,
Yeah.
covering like everything from basic communication skills, which we all could, probably use a brush up on,
Yeah.
to like the more subtle stuff like
Yeah.
charisma,
Right.
even like interpersonal chemistry.
Oh, yeah.
How do you like just click with somebody?
Well, and I think it's especially interesting for, our listeners who are already, quite adept at many of these things, right? This isn't just about, basic communication 101.
Right. This is like for the
Jeez.
pros.
It is. It's like, okay, you've got the fundamentals down.
Right.
But how do we refine those? How do we maybe find some fresh perspectives on things we thought we knew?
Right. Or even just like totally new, like, oh, wow.
Aha moments.
Uh-huh. I never thought of it that way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's jump right into it.
Okay.
I think one of the most well-known things about communication is the power of first impressions.
Right.
I mean, we all know that they matter,
Of course.
but it's almost shocking how fast they're formed.
It really is. Like within the first, they say like 10 seconds
Oh, yeah.
of meeting somebody,
Oh, yeah. You've already sized them up.
you've already made a judgment.
Right. And a huge part of that
Huge.
is nonverbal communication.
It is. It's all that stuff that's happening beneath the surface,
Yeah.
like the way we carry ourselves, our facial expressions, our gestures, all of that.
Yeah, so much of it's like subconscious too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you're not even thinking about it.
Sure. No, and that's what makes it so interesting because, on one hand, you've got this kind of automatic response to other people's nonverbal cues, but then
Yeah.
on the other hand, you can actually consciously use those same cues.
Right. To kind of shape how people perceive you.
Exactly, to project a certain image or, create a certain feeling.
Right. So it's like a double-edged sword, right?
It is a tool that can be used, for good or for not so good.
Right. So let's start with something simple like smiling.
Okay, yeah, everyone smiles.
Right.
But there's actually a technique
Right.
called the flooding smile.
The flooding smile, what is that?
So it's not just like, grinning at everybody you see immediately.
Right.
It's more about this intentional pause.
Oh, okay.
When you first meet somebody,
Okay.
you kind of take them in for a second,
Okay.
and then you let this warm smile kind of spread across your face.
Yeah.
And that little delay,
Right.
it's supposed to make a world of difference.
Really? Because I would just think like the bigger the smile,
Right.
the better, right?
You'd think so, but
Like actually the more teeth, the better.
no, it's not about the size of the smile. It's about the timing.
Okay.
Because that immediate, like ear-to-ear grin,
Right.
it can sometimes feel a little bit, automatic or even generic.
Right. Like you do it for everybody.
Exactly.
Right.
But when you pause for just a moment
Yeah.
before smiling, it signals that you're actually reacting to that specific person.
Okay.
It's like you're saying, oh, I see you,
Okay.
and I'm happy you're here.
So it's more genuine.
It feels much more genuine.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
The flooding smile.
Ah,
I'm going to try to remember that one.
it's a good one.
Okay. Now, and speaking of like really seeing somebody,
Mm.
there's eye contact.
Oh, yeah.
Another one of those like nonverbals that can really pack a punch.
Right.
I mean, intense eye contact.
Yeah.
It's been shown to actually like create feelings of respect
Hmm.
and even fondness in people.
Really?
I remember reading about this one study where they had people just, have brief conversations with each other.
Okay.
And some of them were told to like subtly count their partner's blinks.
Count their blinks?
Yeah, like just kind of in the background.
Wow.
And the people who were counting the blinks,
Okay.
they actually reported feeling
Yeah.
more respect
Interesting.
and fondness for their conversation partners.
So the act of really focusing on their eyes
Yeah.
created a stronger connection.
That's so wild.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it?
Because I would think like, if you're staring at somebody
Right.
too intensely,
It can be creepy.
yeah, it could be creepy.
Right.
So how do you know like how much is too much?
Well, I think it's all about context
Right.
and also about reading the other person's signals.
Okay.
If they seem uncomfortable,
Right.
then obviously you want to back off.
You got to back off.
But if they're holding your gaze
Yeah.
and they seem engaged, then that's a good sign that you're on the right track. That sustained eye contact, it really signals engagement. It shows that you're present and you're listening.
Right.
And it makes the other person feel heard and valued.
Okay, so it's like a sign of respect.
Absolutely.
It's like you're saying, I see you, I hear you,
Right.
I'm paying attention.
And there's even this idea that people who maintain strong eye contact
Yeah.
are perceived as being more intelligent.
More intelligent, really?
Yeah, it's almost like a cognitive shortcut
Okay.
that we take because we think, okay, if they can hold my gaze,
Mm-hmm.
they must be, really processing information effectively. They're
Yeah.
not easily distracted.
So they're present in the moment.
Right. They're present. They're focused.
Okay.
So we kind of equate that with intelligence.
Right. Right. It's like they're not fazed by the silence
Yeah.
or, all the other things that are going on around them.
Exactly.
Okay, interesting. So we've got like regular eye contact,
Mhm.
which is good,
Yes.
but then there's this other thing I read about called epoxy eyes.
Epoxy eyes.
Yeah, and this is like
This is intense.
intense eye contact, like super
Kind
intense,
of unwavering.
unwavering.
Gaze.
Right, and apparently this is like a tactic that's sometimes used
Okay.
by people in positions of power or even like in romantic contexts.
Oh, interesting.
It's almost like a supercharged version
Nice.
of regular eye contact.
Yeah, you're really trying to, lock in with that person.
Okay, so, but is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I think that's where we have to be really careful
Okay,
because while sustained eye contact can build connection,
right.
epoxy eyes operates on a different level.
Okay.
It can definitely trigger, a strong physiological response in the other person,
Okay.
almost like, the initial stages of attraction.
Okay.
But, and this is crucial, the reception of this technique is highly dependent on context
Context. Okay.
and whether the other person finds you appealing to begin with.
Right. So if they're already kind of into you,
Yes.
it might work.
It might enhance that attraction,
But if not,
but if not, it's going to backfire.
it can backfire big time.
Okay.
It can feel very uncomfortable, even intimidating, or just plain obnoxious.
Obnoxious.
So definitely not something to deploy casually.
Okay, so epoxy eyes use with extreme caution.
Extreme caution,
Right.
especially with strangers.
Right. Don't just go around epoxying everybody.
No.
Okay, so we've talked about smiling. We've talked about eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
What about posture?
Posture, yes. Another silent signal.
Right, and it really does seem to reflect like your level of confidence, right?
It does. It's like a barometer for success almost.
Oh yeah, and there's that funny visualization technique.
Oh, yeah. I love this one.
Hang by your teeth.
Hang by your teeth.
Can you explain that one?
So imagine you're walking through a doorway,
Okay.
and there's a little bit hanging just above you.
Okay.
As you pass under it, you tilt your head back.
Okay.
And imagine biting down on that bit.
Okay, biting down on the bit.
And that's going to naturally lift your posture.
Okay.
Head high, shoulders back. So you're like a horse with a bit in its mouth.
Kind of, but much more elegant.
Right, more elegant.
Yes.
Okay, so you're walking through doorways.
Doorways, hallways, anywhere really.
Imaginary bit in your mouth.
Right. It's a mental trick.
And that's going to give you that winner stance.
That winner stance.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It's a fun way to think about it.
Yeah, but it actually works.
It does because it brings your awareness to your posture.
Right.
And when you're more aware of it, you're more likely to correct it.
So you're not slouching.
No more slouching.
Right. Head held high.
Exactly.
Looking people in the eye.
Making those connections.
With my flooding smile.
There you go.
Okay, I'm liking this. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
But it's almost crazy how much we read into these things.
I know. It's all happening on a subconscious level.
Subconsciously.
But it's so powerful.
Like even in, serious situations, like I was reading about this trial.
Oh, yeah.
The trial of the Chicago 7. And the defense attorney actually objected to the judge's posture.
The judge's posture.
Yeah, he was like, wait a minute.
Wow.
The judge is leaning forward when the prosecution is speaking.
Oh, interesting.
And then leaning back when we're talking.
So he's signaling to the jury.
Yeah, like he's interested in what they're saying.
Right.
And not interested in what we're saying.
Wow, that's fascinating.
So even in a courtroom.
Even in a courtroom.
Where it's supposed to be, all about the facts and the evidence.
Right.
Body language is still playing a role.
It's always there.
Yeah. Wow. So we got to be really mindful of this stuff.
We do. It's a constant conversation.
Okay, so let's move on from the nonverbals.
Okay.
And talk about actual conversation.
Right.
Making those meaningful connections through the words we use.
Mm-hmm.
And one technique that really stood out to me
Okay.
was this idea of hello, old friend.
Hello, old friend.
And it's so simple, but it's so powerful.
It is.
So basically, when you meet someone new,
Yeah.
you just imagine that they're like a dear friend
Right.
that you haven't seen in ages.
Like you're so happy to see them.
Yes.
Right.
And it's not about faking familiarity.
No, no.
It's about that internal shift in your mindset.
About the feeling.
Yeah, like that genuine joy of reconnecting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's supposed to, like, translate into your facial expressions, your body language.
Your tone of voice.
And it's supposed to make the other person feel instantly more comfortable,
We're welcome.
more valued.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's a beautiful technique.
Yeah, because it's all about, like coming from a place of genuine warmth.
Exactly.
And that's something that people can feel.
They can feel it.
Right? It's like you're radiating that positive energy.
Right.
And who doesn't want to be around that?
Nobody.
Right. So, okay, so hello, old friend.
Hello, friend.
Check. Now, another thing that seems really important in conversation is this idea of dual tracking.
Dual tracking.
And basically, it's about, like, constantly juggling self-expression
Mm-hmm.
with, like, a really keen awareness of how the other person is reacting.
So you're not just talking at them.
No, you're not just like blah, 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 blah.
Oh.
You're actually paying attention.
Or observing.
Observing.
For your cues.
Right, like their facial expressions, their body language,
Mm-hmm.
even their little verbal responses.
Mm-hmm.
And you're adjusting your approach, like, in real time.
It's dance.
Yeah, it is. It's a dance.
Like you're constantly kind of, reading each other.
Right. It reminds me of that story of Clever Hans,
Oh, clever
the
Hulk.
horse that could supposedly do math.
Right.
But it turned out he was just really good at reading his handler's cues.
He was picking up on those subtle signals.
Right.
Unconsciously given off by his handler.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like that with dual tracking.
Yeah.
You're being like Clever Hans,
You're being a communication clever Hans.
but in a good way.
In a good way.
Okay, so you're paying attention, you're adjusting.
Adjusting.
Now, what about small talk?
Oh, small talk.
Because I think a lot of people
A lot of people.
dread small talk.
Yeah. It could be a hurdle.
Yeah, and it's funny because, you think about, like, high-powered executives or, like, performers
Right.
who are totally comfortable on stage.
Commanding a room.
Yeah, they can give a presentation to, like, thousands of people,
No problem.
but put them in a room at a cocktail party.
And they freeze up.
They're
They
like-
don't know what to say.
Yeah, and apparently it's because, like, the fear of small talk
Yeah.
and stage fright actually stem from, like,
Yeah.
similar underlying anxieties.
It's all about social evaluation.
Yeah, they're worried about being judged,
Right.
which is so interesting.
Yeah, because you think these people are so confident.
You would think,
But underneath it all,
underneath
they're
it,
just still there.
they're human,
They're human.
just like us.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we get better at this small talk thing?
Well, there are some techniques.
Okay.
One is to simply acknowledge the environment, like something that you're both experiencing in that moment.
Okay.
So if you're, in a crowded elevator, you could say,
Yeah.
oh, this elevator seems a little slow today.
Right.
Or if you're at a conference, you could say,
Yeah.
wow, there are a lot of people here.
Right. Just something simple.
Just something to break the ice.
Right. And it's like a shared experience.
Exactly. It gives you something to talk about.
Right. That's neutral.
It's neutral. It's low stakes.
Right. Nobody's going to get offended
Right.
by you commenting on the slow elevator.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And then there's this other technique called parroting,
Parroting.
which is basically just repeating
Right.
a key phrase that the other person just said,
Okay.
but in a questioning tone.
So you're not just mimicking them.
Yeah.
You're showing that you're listening
Right.
and you want to hear more.
Right. So if they say,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I just got back from a trip to Italy,
Oh,
you could say a trip to Italy.
right. And that kind of invites them to elaborate.
Right. And it takes the pressure off of you
Exactly.
to come up with something brilliant to say.
Right. Because you're just reflecting back what they said.
Right. Okay. I like that.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Parroting.
Parroting.
Now, what if you're at like a big event
Okay.
and you see somebody
Mm-hmm.
you really want to talk to,
Right.
but you have no idea how to approach them?
I've been there.
Right. And this is where the who's at technique comes in.
Who's that?
Yeah. It's kind of sneaky,
It is a little bit.
but in a good way.
In a good way.
So basically, you enlist the help of the host,
Okay.
right? So you can either just be like, hey,
Right.
can you introduce me to that person over there?
Okay.
Or if you want to be a little more subtle,
Yeah.
you can kind of plump the host for information beforehand.
Like do some recon.
Yeah. Like, oh, who's that person?
Mhm.
What do they do?
Mm-hmm.
What are their interests?
Get some intel.
Yeah. And then when you do approach them, you've got like a ready-made conversation starter.
You're armed with information.
Yeah. So you're not just like, hi,
Right.
nice weather we're having.
Yeah, you can actually say something relevant.
All right. So who's that? That's a good one.
Who's that?
Okay. Now, once you've broken the ice,
Yeah.
You've got to have something to talk about.
Right. You need some good material.
Right. And this is where the Never the Naked City technique comes in.
Never the naked city.
And this is all about tailoring your conversational bait
Okay.
to your listeners' interests.
So you're not just throwing out random facts.
No, it's got to be relevant.
It's got to be something they care about.
Right. So it's kind of like, a fisherman using different lures
Oh, yeah. Good analogy.
for different types of fish.
Right. Different fish are attracted to different things.
Right. So you got to know your audience.
You got to know your audience.
So, for example, if you know that somebody's really passionate about art
Okay.
and you happen to be from Philadelphia,
Mm-hmm.
instead of just saying, oh, I'm from Philadelphia,
Right.
you could say, oh, I'm from Philadelphia,
Mm.
home to one of the most amazing mural arts scenes in the world.
Right. You're giving them a hook.
Yeah, a hook.
Something to connect with.
Right. And then you can launch into a conversation about art.
And murals in Philadelphia.
Right, exactly. So never the naked city.
Never the naked city.
Always dress it up a little bit.
Make it flavor.
Make it relevant. Okay.
Oh.
We all know that dreaded question, what do you do?
Oh, yeah. That's a classic.
Right. And it can be so tempting
It can be.
to just give like a boring one-word answer.
Right. Accountant, lawyer.
Yeah.
Done.
But instead,
Mm.
we should be using what's called a nutshell resume.
A nutshell resume. I like that.
All right. And this is all about focusing on the benefits
Okay.
of what you do,
Not just the title.
not just the title.
Right.
So instead of saying,
Yeah.
I'm a software engineer,
Yeah.
you could say something like, I help businesses streamline their operations through custom software solutions.
Wow. That's much more engaging.
Right. It's like you're telling a story.
It is. You're painting a picture.
Right. And it's more about like the impact.
Yeah. The value you bring.
Yeah. So nutshell resume.
Nutshell resume.
Got it. Okay. So
Okay.
we've talked about breaking the ice.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about keeping the conversation going.
Keeping it flowing.
Now let's get into some more like subtle strategies
Okay.
for influence and building rapport.
All right. The ninja moves.
Yeah, the ninja moves.
I like it.
So one that I thought was really interesting was kill the quick me too.
Kill the quick me too.
And this is basically about like holding back
Okay.
when you discover a shared interest with somebody.
So you're not immediately jumping in with me too.
No, because apparently the longer you wait,
Yeah.
the more pleasantly surprised and impressed
Mm-hmm.
the other person will be when they finally do discover the connection.
Just like you're playing it cool.
Yeah, it's like you're not desperate
Not desperate.
to find common ground.
Yep.
You're just confident in yourself
Exactly.
and your own interests.
And then when it does come out, it's like a bonus.
Yes, bonus. Oh, wow, you too.
Right?
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it creates a stronger bond.
Interesting. Okay, so kill the quick me too.
Kill the quick me too.
Got it. Now, another subtle but powerful technique
Okay.
is communication.
Communication.
Yeah, and this is all about like consciously framing your statements
Okay.
with the word you.
And what do you?
So instead of saying,
Mm-hmm.
I found this new restaurant to be really good,
Okay.
you could say,
You could say,
I think you would really enjoy this new restaurant.
right, you're putting the focus on them.
Exactly. It's all about their experience.
Their needs, their preferences.
And it makes them feel more seen,
more valued.
more important.
Yeah.
Okay, so communication.
Communication.
Got it. Now, what about things to avoid?
Things to avoid.
Because there are definitely some communication no-nos.
Oh, yeah.
And high on that list are cliches,
Cliches.
right? Those tired, overused phrases.
Yeah, the ones that make you roll your eyes.
Yeah, like, don't touch a cliche with a 10-foot pole,
Exactly.
right? So instead of relying on those,
Yeah.
try to come up with your own,
Your own fresh,
You got it.
insightful ways of expressing yourself.
because it shows that you're thinking.
Right.
You're not just on autopilot.
You're not just like regurgitating the
Well-
same old tired phrases.
Exactly.
Okay, so no cliches.
No cliches.
Got it. And on the flip side, you can actually borrow some techniques
Okay.
from motivational speakers
Motivational speakers.
with something called Jaw Smith's Jive.
Jaw Smith's Jive.
And this is about like incorporating, relevant and memorable quotes.
Oh, okay.
Or even like creating your own little catchphrases.
Like little nuggets of wisdom.
Yeah, or like a memorable analogy
Okay.
to make your conversation more engaging.
So you're kind of like a walking soundbite
Yeah, but in a good way.
in a good way.
Like you want people to remember what you said.
Right. To leave an impact.
Yes. Okay, so Jaw Smith's Jive.
Jaw Smith's Jive. But make sure it's authentic.
Yes.
Don't just like force it.
Don't force it.
Okay. Now,
Now,
another important tip is to banter like the big shots do.
banter like the big shots.
And this is all about using clear, direct language,
Okay.
avoiding those unnecessary euphemisms.
So you're not beating around the bush?
No, you're saying what you mean.
We're being straightforward.
And the idea is that, like, confident people,
Mm-hmm.
they're not afraid to use strong language.
Right.
They're not trying to sugarcoat things.
Makes sense.
They're just like, boom, this is what it is.
So it conveys confidence.
Confidence and also, like, respect for the listener.
Right. You're not talking down to them.
Right. You're assuming they can handle it.
Exactly.
Okay, so banter like the big shots.
Like the big shot.
Got it now.
Nap.
Delivering bad news.
Oh, boy.
Nobody likes to do it,
Nobody.
but it's a part of life.
It is.
So how do we do it in a way that doesn't make people hate us?
Well, there's a technique for that.
Okay, tell me.
It's called how to give them the bad news and have them like you all the more.
Okay, that sounds promising.
Right. So the key here is empathy.
Empathy.
Putting yourself in their shoes.
Right.
So if you're a doctor delivering a difficult diagnosis, you do it with compassion.
Okay.
If you're a manager telling someone they didn't get the promotion,
Yeah.
you acknowledge their disappointment.
You're not just like,
Right.
well, too bad. So sad.
No, you're saying, I understand. This is hard. I'm
Yeah.
here for you.
And that can make a huge difference.
It can because it shows that you care.
Okay, so empathy. Empathy.
Empathy.
Got it. Now, what about when you're asked a question
Okay.
that you really don't want to answer?
Right, like a personal question.
Yeah, or something that's just like none of their business.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the broken record technique comes in handy.
Broken record.
So basically, you just repeat your original response
Okay.
over and over again.
Like a broken record.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Using the exact same words
Yeah.
and tone of voice.
So you're not getting flustered.
No, you're just like a calm, steady stream
Right.
of the same response.
So it's polite, but it's firm.
Yeah, it's like you're setting a boundary.
Exactly.
Okay, broken record, got it now. What about celebrities?
Celebrities.
Because, sometimes you might encounter somebody famous,
Right.
and it can be tempting
It can be.
to like totally freak out,
To gush.
to gush.
Yeah.
But the advice here is big shots don't slobber.
Big shots don't slobber. I love that.
Right, so basically you treat them like normal people.
Right. With respect,
Respect.
but also with boundaries.
Right, like you're not going to like chase them down for a selfie.
No.
Or ask them to sing you a song.
Right. They're entitled to their privacy.
Right, and apparently this actually makes you look more confident.
Really?
Yeah, to your own companions.
So it's like you're not impressed by fame.
No, you're above it all.
You're on their level.
Yeah, okay, so big shots don't slobber.
Don't slobber.
Got it. And finally, let's talk about gratitude.
Gratitude.
Because saying thank you
Yes.
is so important,
It is.
but it's also important to do it right.
Right.
So the advice here is never the naked thank you,
Never the naked thank you.
meaning don't just say thanks.